Herzlich willkommen zu unserer dritten Lunchtime Lecture in diesem Semester. Ich begrüße Sie online. Mein Name ist Christoph Wecht. Ich bin Professor für Management an der NDU und gleichzeitig Studiengangsleiter des Bachelorstudiums Management by Design und Dekan der Fakultät für Technik und Wirtschaft. Ich freue mich, dass ich heute Carmen Dumitrescu begrüßen kann als unsere Sprecherin. Carmen ist Architektin, sie hat rumänische Wurzeln, ist aber schon lange in Österreich, in der Schweiz und auch in Spanien tätig. Sie war eine Zeit lang bei Archisphere und ist seit 2022 in der von ihr gegründeten SOP Architecture Unternehmen, und SOP steht für Sense of Place. Warum die Einladung von mir, warum die Einladung an Carmen? Es gibt eine Gemeinsamkeit. Wir haben beide einen Abschluss, Carmen ein Executive MBA an der Universität St. Gallen gemacht, und wir haben uns kennengelernt bei einem Alumni-Treffen in Wien und dann begonnen, über Innenarchitektur von Hotels zu sprechen, und so sind wir zusammengekommen, und insofern ist die Einladung natürlich spannend auch für die Gestaltungsseite an der NDU, und ich freue mich, dass Carmen heute uns ein paar ihrer Gedanken und Erfahrungen mitgeben wird. Und ich möchte ein bisschen was zum Rahmen sagen, sozusagen noch zum Organisatorischen, bevor ich das Wort direkt übergebe. Bitte wie immer die Kameras und Mikrofone abschalten, weil wir eben also online unterwegs sind. Der Vortrag selbst wird 40 bis 45 Minuten dauern. Danach gibt es noch die Möglichkeit, Fragen zu stellen und zu diskutieren. Ende der Lunchtime Lecture wird wieder wie üblich 13:30 Uhr sein. Und wir zeichnen auf, ja, also die Aufzeichnung wurde auch schon gestartet, um auch die Möglichkeit zu geben, nachher zuzuhören oder sich das Ganze nachher nochmal anzuhören. So viel meine Einleitung. Thema Designing for Experience, from Student Living to Luxury Hotel. Carmen, wir freuen uns. Das wird übrigens auf Englisch gesprochen, aber die Fragen können nachher gerne auch in Deutsch gestellt werden. Carmen, wir freuen uns auf deinen Vortrag.
Vielen Dank. Hello. Now it will be difficult to switch to English after such a nice introduction in German. Yes, thank you. I'll start directly in English, so it's easier. Thank you, Christoph, very much for the introduction, and hello, everybody. Welcome to our short presentation. I think I also wrote a few words about myself, but I think Christoph covered most of the topics. Just a second. Yes, basically, I had very international study time, starting my architecture studies in my hometown in Cluj-Napoca in Romania, then moved to Graz, where I also finished my TU studies, and with a break of about 2 years in Barcelona, not a break, but an Erasmus stay, and my diploma that had a topic in Barcelona. Later on, I decided, after having been managing partner for a couple of years by Archisphere Architects and Designers, I decided that an executive MBA would really help with the management side of things. So I returned to study in St. Gallen, and as Christoph said, that was also how we met then in the alumni club from their side in Vienna. I worked several years also during my studies in Barcelona in a small studio where we mostly did post offices, then after finishing my studies, a short time in Graz at Szyszkowicz-Kowalski Architects, and then for the next 11 years at Archisphere, where I actually started right away with hospitality, and I kind of then sticked with it because it's such an exciting field that has a lot of facets and a lot of ways you can always do something new inside the same sector. In 2022, I decided to found Sense of Place Architecture, where inspired by the hospitality industry, we place the needs of our users at the heart of our design process. our designs are mindful of materials and resources while prioritizing the high quality design. We really believe that the thoughtfully designed spaces can enhance quality of life across generations and contribute significantly to sustainable architecture. And our focus lies in living as a service products, I think. Yes. Some of our projects that we dealt with since founding are a competition for the Swiss National Library in Bern. We did some wellness areas, some new concept works, and a whole set of hospitality projects, from concept designs to the entire project, from student living to boutique hotels. And now we're very actively working at a ski resort project in Romania. But maybe let's start with something a little bit more interactive to break the ice and not leave me with the impression that I'm having the talk all by myself. This is an interactive questionnaire. You can scan it and just maybe tell me in 1-2 words, what words pop in your mind when you hear living as a service? Comprehensive solution. Yeah, that's very deep. Cool. Very interesting answers. Basically, what we called now living as a service tries to encompass everything, the entire spectrum between classical hospitality, which are the hotels, and traditional living, because there is a whole plethora of different segments that developed, especially in the last years with the rising of work travel and the changes that happened with also the pandemic, but also these tendencies to work more from home, work remotely, and like this. So it covers everything from, as I said, hotels, micro apartments, branded residences, apart hotels, serviced apartments, co-living concepts, as well as student accommodation and senior and assisted living. The hospitality industry is anything but dull. Each year it brings a whole bounty of exciting new destinations, concepts, revolutionary new hotels, and glamorous renovations. And this is something that, except from the expanding of this spectrum from the classical traditional versions that we knew, you also see in on the branding side of things, where you see, for example, we chose a couple of the main, the most well-known brands, Accor, Hyatt, Marriott, International, Hilton, and you see that in the last 25 years, they doubled, tripled, or even 4 times increased the amount of brands they have, with Accor being a champion in this case. So why does this happen? The number of tourists is continually rising. The new hotels keep popping up to soak up the growing demand. The traditional selling rooms and breakfast business model doesn't really reflect anymore what it means to be a hotel. Every part of a hotel business needs to be challenged and maybe reinterpreted in the few past years, and of course in the following years, to adjust to the changing customer expectations, to interior design, zoning, and the overall service offering. One thing that we are doing to get ahead of these trends and to check these tendencies is that we are taking part in a Vienna-based think tank with global participants that is called Future of Living. We've already spent 2 years in this project, and now we're in the second phase. We analyzed case studies, explored various approaches, and examined trends to understand where the industry is headed. We focus particularly on user experience, the perception of digital technologies, and their implication for architectural and design and sustainability. We worked a lot with questionnaires and surveys that were done by Fraunhofer Institute, and basically looked at different segments of target audiences. On one side, the younger Gen Z group, but then also the transient, in their 40s, and the senior groups. And we also analyzed different cities to make our data a little bit more relatable and easier to digest. We worked with AI and created for our main target groups a persona for each of them. We'll have a look at that now.
Hi, I'm Charlie, age 27, and I live in London.
Hello, my name is Carla. I am 44 and I live in Vienna.
Good afternoon. I am Carlos from Barcelona and I am 66 years old.
In the next step, I will show you a few tendencies that surprised us and the results that were something we didn't necessarily expect. One question that had a somewhat unexpected result was in comparison to the question, how often do you feel lonely? You see that the younger generations tend to feel more and more often lonely compared to the seniors, for example, which is somewhat, how should I say, counterintuitive, because now we have so much more ways of communication and of connecting and socializing, but still more often than not, people tend to feel lonely. Another learning that was very important for us, and it will influence the way our next projects will be developed, is, for example, the answer to the question, do you work from home? We see that there still is a huge gap between how many people would want to work from home and how many really do or are able to because of their living conditions or their employer. So, and this huge gap between the needs and what's provided needs to be closed over the next years. Let's see how Charlie feels about it.
Yeah, I love my job, and I have always preferred working for a company that allows me to work from home at least 2 times a week, even though I'm not a fan of online meetings. Working from home does help me avoid commuting, giving me more time to spend with friends on weekday evenings and to take care of my dog. Having this flexible work arrangement means it's important for me to have a proper space and atmosphere at home for work.
Yes, so we see that sticking with just covering the basic functions such as eat, sleep, meet, work, and all this conference and standard hotel functions is not enough anymore to stand out in the hospitality industry. So products try to shift into new roles beyond their services and trying to address deeper needs of the target audience, such as the basic needs to connect, to network, to socialize, to have a unique user experience, to feel well and concentrate on your health, which are all trends. Now, one Creative Supply is a consultant brand that visualized this on the Maslow hierarchy and exemplified how hotel brands can play different roles in their target segments. They looked at hotel brands from this perspective of the Maslow hierarchy and basically concluded that the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the harder you are to copy. Because the entire psychological and safety department, the base of the pyramid, all the Hyatts, Marriotts, Holidays Inns of the world, they were born in the 20th century, and their value proposition was no matter where you go, you will be safe. You're going to have a room, a good bed, a hot shower, wireless. You will be greeted by people who speak English. But it was great in the 70s because then you were traveling on the other side of the world and you had no idea what's waiting for you. But now, of course, all these platforms like TripAdvisor and Booking are taking up this role, and it's not necessary anymore. So this is something that you now expect for any decent brand. So brands are trying to tap up in the higher parts of the pyramid, like love and belonging. Mama Shelter, for example, and Hoxton are brands, quite new brands compared to the other ones. And these are concepts that are about telling you, together we are a great community of people. It is similar to the basic idea of just bringing people together, but now concentrated especially on travelers and looking more to become, to be seen as a community or a community builder, not necessarily as a hotel in the first place. Of course, even higher up, self-esteem is something very difficult to achieve through a hospitality brand, because that is something that you usually just stay one night or once in a hotel, so it's not something that recurrent for the same hotel to really position you in that way. And then there's the absolute top of the pyramid, the self-actualization, and that is something that the fewest brands manage to do. Soho House might be the best example for that, because Soho House is a private members club that managed to really strengthen their brand in a way that your experiences, if you make it to Soho House, you are suddenly a part of a creative elite. You made it from that point of view, and you join like-minded people, and this experience is reinforced when you enter their premises. Okay, but to look further, how can we achieve this? This is, of course, something slipping in these new roles that truly make a hotel unique. We have to look at hospitality design holistically, and not just an interior design or not just services and people. Because if you have a very good interior designer and the spaces are great, but the service is really bad, people will still refuse to come back. So coherence is the key for the success of a product. And the story is, of course, the heart of the concept. And in the next minutes, I will show you a few case studies from projects that we worked on, how we created a coherent design around the story. So we focus on the interior component and on the storytelling. The first project I want to present to you is Loomis Living. It's a student residence product that we finished last year here in Vienna. Actually, I think all the projects I'm presenting are from Vienna. Our firm has supported the brand development of Loomis Student Living, and this was their pilot project in Vienna. It was we went for a very playful design with the topic, the overview topic, an urban jungle, and our story and what we were trying to achieve with the interior design concept was to melt outdoors with the indoor spaces and create a welcoming, easygoing and flexible setting with a fluid transition not only between the inside and the outside, but also between the inside the different zones in the inside of the public areas. This was very important because being a pilot project, we had quite a big surface to use and zone for the public areas, but we didn't really have a lot of data or feedback from previous projects how will actually be used. So we really try to concentrate on flexibility and a lot of playful elements that can be used in very different modes. We used a lot of outdoor furniture elements also on the inside. So there are also high resistance, which is very good for students. We used a lot of modular elements. Here you see this is a grid system that you could set up in different ways and use the same boxes as well as a shelf, as a table, or however you would like to modularly build them up. So in case some of the uses that we presumed that were right for the project turned out not to be used that way, you can always change the usage by repositioning the modules. We also use some playful elements like these letters that remind us from for the billboards, and a lot of outside inspiration, and a lot of greenery and biophilic elements. Here you see the waiting and arrival area. Apart from the grid system for the shelving that is modular, we also used these soft seating elements that are also modular and can be rearranged by the students and be used between different spaces flexibly. Okay, here are some other elements where you see that through materials and, for example, through this plant patterned wallpaper, you take with you this storytelling of the outdoors coming into the indoors, and let it like unite the entire interior design of the house. This is an image from the cafeteria. And then the highlight of the project was a 2-floor seating steps area that you can use multifunctionally. You come downstairs from the main lobby area, which is here. You have this huge hanging decorative lighting elements that also remind you of a jungle, and complemented by greenery. And then go into this half underground floor where you have the gaming and all the party-like zones. And here we also played a lot with different usages and different scenarios. The everyday life uses, we have the curtain elements that act like room dividers and reorganize the space. You have the seating steps that you just saw, and everything is open and can be used as one big zone where people have talks, have informal get-togethers, can also study here if they prefer here than traditional study room. But then we have, for example, the gaming scenario where we just close up the middle gaming area. You can have there a competition as well. We have free stations where you can play whatever Nintendo box can offer, and on the sides you keep open the other free spaces that are generated through this division. You have the foosball table, a billiard table on the other side, and the steps. Of course, we also have, very importantly for our student residents, party mode, where all this back part is separated from the main circulation, and then it can really get loud without disturbing excessively the rest of the functions in the public areas. And we have also a public viewing setting where we just close the sides of the curtains, and we leave the seating steps together with the modular seating at the bottom. And with a beamer, we can also have a lecture or projection or public viewing for football or whatever event of interest is taking place. Yes, so this was the student residence. The next project I want to present to you, it was one of my first projects at Arhisphere, and it's a project that is still, although it's now 10 years old, it's still very close to my heart because I had the chance to participate from the very beginning, from workshops to define the target groups all the way to doing not only the interior design but also the architecture. So from foundations to the vases and the curtains, I've been through the entire project. Here we had a very big challenge. This project is in Vienna in the Sonnenviertel. When we started, they were finishing up most of the Hauptbahnhof, but everything else was non-existing. So to make a unique hotel that has a very strong identity in a place where you don't have anything built yet, it's quite a challenge. So we try to tap into the tradition and heritage of Vienna, and we came up with the idea of creating a community as a place to gather locals, because we were aware that they're going to build a lot of housing in that area. So it's not just for tourists, but also to really bring the new communities created and the new neighborhoods that were created in this area together in our hotel lobby. And for that, we looked back at the traditional Viennese coffee house. And we took, on the one hand, different interior design elements, the look and feel. I will go through the elements in the next slides, but also the way they worked, the way they were really a place to stay all day, to spend it there, having creative exchange, working, many writers, and a lot of creatives used to basically live in the typical Viennese houses. So one of the more, how should I say, surface inspirations was this Wiener gepflegt pattern. That is something you can't imagine a Viennese coffee house without. And we reinterpreted it in a very modern way, and this is what you see on the facade of the building. Another, in the interior parts, we took various elements, especially these coffee house tables and the tonnet chairs, and also very cozy and inviting seating areas. We also used a lot of course, a little bit hidden away, but a lot of sockets and everything that people could really have it easy to stay there all day, to feel comfortable, to work from there, have a meeting. The operator really concentrated on having very good internet, and so to create great conditions for work in the lobby area. The reception and bar were merged in one element, and this was kind of the heart of the lobby. And we had small, how should I say, attentions that were really appreciated by the clients afterwards. For example, we had like a Basena fountain where you could get your Wiener Hochquellwasser for free, and you could do it by yourself, so you wouldn't have this threshold that you always have to ask a waiter, and it really made it comfortable for the local community to come in. We also quoted a little bit this coffee house atmosphere in the rooms, using, instead of a classic writing desk that you have in hotels, we use again a coffee table and add it to our bench where it's a very comfortable way to sit in the window and just spend the day reading or working on your laptop. We added a tonnet chair backrest, so you can also sit upright and write properly at the table if you wish so. Another layer to this story is something the clients and owners came up with, which was super nice and really complemented the concept. This was Shani, the good spirit of the house. This is a traditional nickname for Johann in Austrian, but it also means in all Viennese the classical service personnel in the garden. So it all, the term altogether expresses, of course, more expresses this warmth, this Viennese charm and nonchalance, and the welcoming hospitality. We use this character also to name the hotel, but also as small pop-ups everywhere in the hotel, in merchandise, the corridors, and in some hidden corners in the rooms. You find quotes from him. You also find some Viennese words or sayings that are then translated to English. And this way we managed to create on all levels a coherent story. And to add even more to this community, we planned a co-working area, and that was the first co-working area in a hotel in Austria, at least. And it really picked up, and the local community sprang in and managed to do what the Viennese coffee houses did for centuries: bring people together to create new content. And the next project is a totally different class. This is a 4-star superior hotel, the Andaz Vienna, but it was almost across the street from the Shani Hotel, also in the Sonnenwärmefilter. Very similar challenge, that it was in an area that everything was new and you really didn't have something to get inspiration from. The building is, of course, wonderful. The architect was Renzo Piano, and 2 of these towers were the hotel. So in our storytelling and trying to find an identity for the place, we looked around a little bit further surroundings, and we found, of course, this is almost across the street from Belvedere. Looking at Belvedere and its history, we, of course, met with Prince Eugene of Savoy, which built Belvedere. It was actually one of his architectural legacies. He he contracted more and planned more Baroque palaces, but Belvedere is one of the nicest ones. He was a distinguished field marshal in the army of the Austrian Habsburg dynasty in the 17th and 18th centuries. And during his peaceful years, he really accumulated a vast collection of art and literature and corresponded with contemporary artists, scientists, philosophers. He was a real supporter of the arts and a great appreciator of good quality art and handicraft. And you could see it in all his residences. You see that he really invested to take the most expensive and best sculptures, architects, artists to decorate his residences. He traveled a lot and had an impressive Schatzkammer. So our idea for Andaz was to bring this character and what he cannot, the historical character, but to reinterpret him and see what would Prince Eugene's living room look if he lived now in the 21st century. And so this is the lobby area from the Andaz Hotel. And here we really tried to make you feel that you arrive in his living room and you're his guest. He's not there at the time, he's traveling, but he extends his hospitality and you can come in and enjoy his house as your own. So he's the host of our hotel. And we did that through 2 main design areas. One was this huge library and Schatzkammer exhibition shelves that actually involved the elevator shafts. It was actually quite also, from the zoning point of view, quite a big challenge because we just had windows here and it was a very deep space. And we had these massive elevator shafts from concrete there. And until we found a way to really cover them and generate a new overgrown piece of furniture out of them. It was, we went to quite some versions. On the other side of the lobby, we created in collaboration with two art galleries, an actual art collection with a lot of contemporary, with only contemporary artists, most of them from Austria, if not from the neighboring countries, some German, Hungarian, maybe also Romanian ones, and generated through that a real art collection of the hotel. Here is a picture of the entire lobby where you see on the one hand the art collection, and here the different objects from exotic rhinoceros to different stones, African heads, and everything that that Eugene in the 21st century would have brought back from his trips, but also some very nice drinks that he would have in his bar, books, and so on, as if it would have been his own library. We went with the same idea in different facets also, for example, in the smaller meeting rooms that we had, where we had all designated to a certain type of art. One was called the artist, one the architect, the tailor, and they're all equipped in that direction to make you think at the inspiration that we got, and are used in the same creative way by the local communities. Another thing that we tapped into as an inspiration from how we would see nowadays Prince Eugene was his love for very good handicraft, and you see that mostly in the rooms, where we worked a lot with really nice glass cutting details, wooden elements. You always find some surprise in every corner, like for example the coat rack is a head of Freud, and you have these shoe fittings for your shoes. And of course here we also find some of the art. Basically in the lobby you have the original artworks, and here in the rooms you quote them with art prints, and we integrated the TV in the same setting to give it a continuity and coherence. The last project I want to show to you, this is a competition that we actually didn't realize because in the end it is Österreichische Postsparkasse. There was a competition for it to become a 5-star hotel, but in the end it was decided that it was rented to the university for 100 years, so it didn't become a hotel. But the competition is still one of the nicest storytelling project that I ever had the chance to work on. Of course, I suppose most of you or all of you know the Österreichische Postsparkasse is a famous building in Vienna. It's designed and built by Otto Wagner at the beginning of the century. It is regarded to be one of the most important works of the Vienna Secession, and it was constructed using back then completely new reinforced concrete. Otto Wagner had a lot of things that he first used on this building that were completely groundbreaking at the time. Aluminium was one of them. He used, maybe we see it better in the next slide, he used aluminium to mount the stone panels on the facade, and as railings and some accents in the furniture through the house, and even so managed to use up during the construction years, I think about a quarter of the world production of aluminium back then. So just to have an idea how innovative it was. Another thing that was extremely cutting edge back then, and you find it as a floor finishing in very many of the spaces in the building, is linoleum, which he used as a very how should I say, luxurious product. So for example, here, the stairs are carved, the marble stairs are carved out to give place for linoleum inlays. Of course, nowadays, we don't see it that much as a sign of something exquisite and luxurious as it might have been back then. But it's very interesting to see how perception about certain materials changes with time. Yes, a huge challenge in this building was, of course, that it was completely protected from a historical point of view, and we weren't, in most of the places, spaces, we weren't really allowed to make significant changes. And that on one hand, and on the other hand, being a savings bank, it wasn't really, how should I say, five-star hotel material. You didn't have a lot of very warm, inviting materials. Everything was quite cold, very functional, very stripped of all decoration. And we really had to get creative with that. We read and researched a lot about Otto Wagner, and that was there was one idea that I kept coming back to. The whole building, in my opinion, there's also the angels on the rooftop, but a lot of the staircases, as you see here, and a lot of the space proportions and elements have very some feminine proportions, and yeah, proportions, I think, is the right word. And I read a lot about the fact that Otto Wagner was quite obsessed with his wife Louise, and he used to like really have journals of taking measurements of her body and then trying to do these proportions in his work. So our conclusion was, let's treat the Postparkasse as if it was a woman. It has a great figure, and we'll just dress it up. We'll dress her up with something to really fit her figure and really bring her beauty forward. Not try to hide her or change her, but really enhance her natural qualities with a layer of softness and warmth. So we went and looked very much at fashion and new materials that could complement. Here you see always compared, so presented near each other, elements from the building and elements from different materials and inspiration elements. In the next one also, this is also a picture from some of the air exhaust systems in the building, and we found basically to each of the very clear structured hard elements a soft element to complement it in a textile form. And I will show you 2 points where you can see how we changed the space. This is the Kleine Kassenhalle, the back entrance, which shows a lot of boundaries between the back then clerks at the bank and the people who were coming, the clients of the bank. You just everything is very naked, very empty. It used to have just one table in the middle. It was in a picture before, but basically there are very strong boundaries and everything is very austere. We changed this. We used as a design element some of these panel elements that you could see, these ones, but broke up the boundary. So we created some zoning with it. Here and at the back of the bar, we have the reception on the one side and the bar as a highlight on the other side. You could see here a little visualization of how the situation would look, transforming something that was a barrier before into an element that is sheltering different zones, making you feel very hugged by the space and comfortable. And this is a view towards the bar, where you also see we worked with very minimalistic lighting that basically wouldn't influence much, just highlight the ceilings and the pillars that we kept. But we changed the floor with a warmer material and added a lot of soft cushioning furniture modules that warm up the place and make it comfortable, and a big eye-catcher wallpaper in the back to create a kind of contrast to the very black and white serious environment. Another area where we were not allowed to change almost anything is this entrance area. There we tried to set an accent with the carpet. And there's a funny anecdote here. We did a lot of research of different patterns and fabric patterns that Otto Wagner did. And we went to the Backhausen fabric collection. They have a very extensive pattern collection. And we found some carpet patterns made by Otto Wagner. And funnily enough, one of them, the one that we used in the end, was drawn on the backside of a plan of the Postsparkasse. So he basically recycled the plan and drew a carpet pattern on the backside. We also worked just minimalistically with some lighting and left to accentuate the space, but basically didn't touch anything significant. In the rooms, we also took inspiration from this feminine vibe that I mentioned for the public areas, and really this was also, the rooms were the previous offices, very high spaces, completely naked with a very unique gray linoleum. And we, of course, we can't change the height, and it's nice, so we try to play with it, and again, add a lot of layers of warmth, a few details like nightstand lights that resemble the earrings of a lady, some things that remind you of dresses and other clothes to wear. Here you see the sitting area. We also worked with to create another horizon in the room and not just keep the endless height that we had with paravan elements like you would have in a boudoir where you change behind them, but use them to kind of frame the space and create a more human, cozier proportion. You see this rendering here, and the last one is a view to the bed. We also used, of course, a lot of patterns from that time, not also Otto Wagner's. This is, for example, a pattern from Dagobert Pesce. That is also very Viennese. You can find it in MAC. Okay, I think I'm ready for questions. Thank you for your attention.
Vielen Dank, Carmen, für den tollen Vortrag und die vielen Beispiele. Wir gehen wieder, we're switching back to German, I guess. Gibt's Fragen? Wir sind jetzt noch, haben noch fast 10 Minuten Zeit für Fragen und Antworten. Ich hab eine Frage, also allgemein noch nicht zu den Beispielen. Oder jetzt kam gerade was in den Chat. Und welche Rolle spielt die künstliche oder welche Rolle wird die künstliche Intelligenz spielen jetzt oder in der Zukunft bezüglich dieses Living as a Service Konzepts? Also wie schätzt du das ein, künstliche Intelligenz und dieses Living as a Service, dieser Living as a Service sozusagen Ansatz, der, wie der Kollege sagt, schon eigentlich sehr alt ist und gleichzeitig auch sehr modern ist, ja?
Ja, ich springe zu einer Folie hier. Sekunde. Ja, grundsätzlich, es hat eine sehr große Wichtigkeit, finde ich. Nicht unbedingt in das Interior Design in sich, aber es ist eine von den extrem wichtigen anderen Komponenten, um eine wirklich Story und Identität von einem Produkt zu ergänzen. Und das ist bei meisten von den Services, von den Contents, die generiert werden, von den Channels, wie man kontaktiert wird und angesprochen schon bevor man eine Reise eintritt. AI spielt jetzt schon eine riesige Rolle und die Betreiber investieren extrem viel in sehr gute Feedback-Plattformen. Sie versuchen extrem viel wirklich zu ahnen, bevor die Kunden gewisse Wünsche oder Fragen haben, die zu beantworten mit AI, immer bereit zu stehen, durch von einer ganz klassischen Chatbot über automatische so Push-Notifications, dass sie ständig in Kontakt sind mit dem Kunden und eigentlich die tatsächliche Personal befreien, um die wichtigsten Aufgaben zu erledigen, wie zum Beispiel wirklich da zu sein, zu begrüßen, etwas zu empfehlen. Also wirklich diese, im Fall von Shani, weil sie sind zum Beispiel sehr hoch aufgerüstet technologisch gesehen, dass die Leute wirklich diese Shani-Person sein können und nicht damit beschäftigt sind, jetzt ein Checkout zu machen, Check-in zu machen, Formulare auszufüllen. Das kann alles AI übernehmen und tut es bereits.
Mhm. Und direkt im Entwurfs- und Gestaltungsprozess, siehst du da auch eine Rolle von AI?
Ja, aber da ist also es hat viele punktuelle Rollen in vielen Bereichen. Man kann natürlich das auch für Visualisierungen benutzen, auch für, also wie wir das im Moment benutzen, relativ viel ist, wenn wir wissen, was wir wollen, also auch in die Ideenfindung ein bisschen als Sparing-Partner für Fragen und Antworten, aber hauptsächlich, wenn in unser Kopf oder mit einer Skizze das Inhalt schon generiert ist, das in einem Präsentationsform zu bringen oder zum Beispiel Muster zu entwickeln, Farbstimmungen und so weiter. Also, aber die Prompts müssen, ich glaube, wir können nicht davon ausgehen, dass die Ideen von AI kommen werden. Es wird uns helfen, unsere Ideen genauer zu definieren, vielleicht in einem Auswahlprozess, aber immer wenn ich versucht habe, zu Interior Design Ergebnisse zu kommen, ohne dass ich eine sozusagen Idee oder eine Vorstellung vorher hatte, ich finde, man bekommt eigentlich nur Sachen, die es schon gibt.
Okay, sehr gut. Gibt es noch Fragen aus dem Publikum? Im Chat sehe ich jetzt nichts Aktuelles. Es gibt eine...
I would like to practice my English actually,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Sure.
So I was wondering, could you maybe give me an example of how I can be shifted to I'm still stuck with the Maslow pyramid, to get shifted up to the next level, right? Where it says love and belonging. Could you give me an example how you get there?
Well, I don't know. Do you know the social hub in Vienna?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
It's a brand that used to be called the student hotel, because it basically, the value proposition was, it was a student residence and it had some parts that worked as a hotel. But then they started really focusing on a community. They had even more and more extensive public areas. They offered a lot. The newer, I don't know, I saw the newest one that was opened in Florence this year. They have really extensive conference areas, co-working areas, fitness, they have a cinema, and by including all that, they shifted the entire focus from renting rooms and student accommodation to being a community. They have a lot of community activators, people who are employed to do community events, to invite, integrate other people. They have an inside app. So then basically you pay a premium price for a small room, but you get to be part of that community.
I understand.
By changing then rebranding it to the social hub, it shows even more clearly what their value proposition and claim is. Yeah, so they make you belong somewhere, and this is generally a tendency I realized through many of the projects that we visited recently, that you kind of step away from being a guest or a renter and you become a member. You become, yes, a member also as a type of members club.
Thank you.
Yes. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so we have room for one more question, or time for one more question. So I have one actually. Let's stay in English. So you mentioned at least on one of your slides from SOP, I've seen the embassy of the Netherlands in Vienna.
Yes.
And by chance, if I lean out of the window, I would see this building, and I know that it's a Richard Strauss villa. And I was just wondering if you could mention if you have also kind of a certain theme or topic you developed for this villa.
Well,
just in
actually,
a few sentences, because
I have to disappoint you. It's not that. That's the residence of the ambassador. We are doing the embassy offices that are in the, if you ask Viennese people, not so nice office building across from the opera.
Oh, okay. It's not the official embassy.
No, it is the official embassy, but one is
the embassy, but not the residence of the embassy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. One is the residence of the ambassador, and the other is the embassy and the consular. So it's the offices. It's not the residence.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we do have a story there, but we developed it in co-creation with, there's an interior designer from the side of the embassy that kind of provides a first concept for all or their diplomatic offices around the world. And it's a very nice, a kind of Jugendstil meets Dutch design.
Okay.
We have a lot of white and dark blues and something like in that direction, but there we're not. So we just started. So next.
Okay, so I will close our lunchtime lecture. So thank you very much, Carmen, for this very interesting lecture you gave us. Though we recorded it, so you can actually look it up afterwards. And I will change to German again and announce next Lunchtime Lecture. Die wird am 15. Mai stattfinden, heute in einer Woche. Und Olivier wird Lena Weber zu Gast haben. Und Lena Weber ist eine Grafik-System-Designerin und eine Creative Coderin. Also wir lassen uns überraschen nächste Woche. Lena Weber, wieder um 12:30 Uhr, wieder online, moderiert von meinem Kollegen Olivier. Ja, und für heute vielen Dank fürs Dabeisein und noch einen schönen, erfolgreichen Nachmittag. Danke, Carmen.
Vielen Dank für die Aufmerksamkeit.
Ade.
Danke, tschüss.
Ciao.